Hi guys, I'm the Ember, and today I'm going to show you how to make these 4 basic materials in Blender. So let's get started. Okay, so I've opened up a new Blender file, and I'm just going to hit A, then X, delete everything. Let me enable my screencast keys, so you can see what I'm pressing down here. So I'm going to do Shift A and add a UV sphere, and I'm going to click this little panel down here. I'm going to times this by 2, so times this by 2 like that. Do the same with this one. I'm going to right click on the object and shade smooth. Okay, so I'm going to take my mouse down to the junction of these 2 windows here, and you'll see a little crosshair, and then you can click and drag this up. There we go. And you can go over here again and change this to shade editor. You can press N to get rid of this side panel. Also going to go over to the material properties, and this and this over here is exactly the same. So if you click new here, it will add a new one over here, and if you click new over here, it will add a new one over here. And you can see that this right here is the same as this right here. And so you can change the color here, but nothing's happening. That's because you're not in render view. So we're going to go up here to render view. Then I'm going to add a light. So Shift A, light, sun. Move this up. And at the moment this is just a color. So we can also change the color like this. The reason I'm doing it over here, not in here, is that you can get more advanced over here and add, make cooler materials. So I'm going to make the first material, which is going to be a metal shader. So I'm going to delete this principled BSDF by hitting X, and I'm going to get a glossy BSDF. Let me zoom in a bit, and I'm going to duplicate this glossy, so Shift D, like that. I'm going to change the color of this glossy to blue, like this, and the roughness to 0.4. And with the second glossy, I'm going to do 0.1, 0.1, and leave the color at white. So now I'm going to have to add a mix shader, like this one here. We can put that right in the middle. So we can mix these 2 here together, and then we can get the output here. So we'll plug the first glossy in, and the second glossy in. We can get the output by putting the shader into the surface. And we should get this reflective surface here. I'm going to change the factor to 0.375. So one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the camera icon and change the render engine from Eevee to Cycles. Cycles is a more realistic render engine than Eevee. I'm going to change the device to GPU compute. You can only do that if you have a GPU. And I'm going to change the max samples to 32 and enable denoise. Okay, so I'm also going to name this metal, like that, and we've got our nice metal. See how we're getting these weird little like artifacts? That is because we have denoise on. So I'm going to open denoise and change the start sample to 32. And what that does, it will only denoise it when it gets to sample 32. You can see up here, it renders, and when it gets to 32, it will turn denoise on. Okay, so I'm going to move this over on the y-axis, GY, and I'll put that there. Okay, so I'm going to make a new UV sphere, and right-click, shade smooth. I'm going to make a new material, and this one is going to be a plastic shader, so plastic, and delete the principled BSDF. I'm going to add another glossy, and a diffuse, so diffuse BSDF, and a glossy. Also going to add another mix shader. So for the glossy, I'm going to make this green, a light green, and I'm going to change the roughness to 0.109. And for the diffused, I'm going to make this a darker green, like that. And I'm going to mix these 2 together. So put the glossy in the top and the diffuse in the bottom, and plug the output into the surface. Okay, so I'm going to change the fact up to 0.776. That's a nice plastic shader. If you don't want it to be as reflective, you can turn this roughness up to 1. And that's still, well, maybe not all 1, but you can put it at like 0.6. And that looks pretty good, but I'm going to leave it at 0.1. Okay, so I'll move that over again. GY. And put that here. Shift A, mesh UV sphere. And we're going to right click again and shade smooth. I'm going to click new and I'm going to call this see through. So this one is a see-through one. You can use it as glass or see-through plastic, something like that. So again, I'm going to get a glossy. And I'm going to get a transparent. Like that. Put those two in here. Move them down a bit. And you probably guessed this, but I'm going to add another mix shader. I'm going to change the roughness of the glossy to 0.4. And the color of the transparent, you can go an orange reddish sort of color. Plug those both in. And plug the shader into the surface. And with this one, I'm going to go 0.76. So it doesn't actually look see-through, but if you rotate around, you can see that it is actually see-through. Let me just hide this. You can see that that is actually see-through. Okay, so we can select this again. And one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the fact up to 0.76. There we go, that looks a lot more see-through. And you can see that the sun is kind of shining on here, so it looks a little bit reflective. And if you want this to be glass, you can just turn the saturation all the way back down so it's white. Then that would look like glass. So if I added, say, a plane, let me get rid of this. And I rotated this like this and like this. You could put your see-through material on it and it would look like glass. Okay, so there are our 3 materials. Let me change this back to orange. So I showed you how to make a metal material, a see-through material, and a plastic material. Those are just 3 very basic materials. I'll show you a bit more advanced material and then we'll wrap up. So I'll put this one over here, like that. Just move it over here. And I'm gonna add another UV sphere. Shade smooth, and I'm gonna give it that metal material. Oops, metal. And then I'm also gonna click this number 2 here, which makes it its own material. Because at the moment, if I change something, they'll both change. But if I click this number 2, and then I change this, it won't change on this one as well. Okay, so I'm going to call this metal, let's go with noise. And I'm going to add a noise and a color ramp. I'm going to plug the color into the fact and the color into the color of the glossy. That. So you can see that it gives it like, yeah, noise. So let me go back like this. You can change the scale of the noise up and down. I might put it at that. Change the detail up a bit. Now I'm going to select both of these. Shift D, move them down. And plug the color into the second glossy's color. So now we have this nice little, like, I'll call it noisy metal material. If you want to, you can go get a bit crazy with this and change the distortion like this, and it makes this cool, like, squiggly wavy pattern. You can also change the roughness down, make it look a bit more clear, like that, and that gives you a cool squiggly pattern. Okay, so I hope you learned something and had fun, and if you want to see more of my content, please subscribe and click the bell icon to stay updated, and I'll see you in the next one.